Hello, everyone. Welcome to Membership to Leadership. I'm Steve Coulthard, your host this evening, and I have the lovely and distinguished Wendy Cook. Wendy, please tell everybody your title, what lodge you come from, and the number of your lodge.
Wendy Cook, I'm the Exalted Ruler at the Everett Lodge 479, and I am also the Tall Lady, which is the co-chair for the Tall Elks Therapy Program.
So anyway, I guess the question is that Ben told me today that you're the brand new ER for the, and I always screw this up, the 2021-2022 season, correct?
That is me. Yes, sir.
Awesome. And congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to hear some sort of a backstory on how you got started.
Yeah, absolutely. I held a spouse card for about 3.5 years. And a little background is that my husband's family are from the Hoquiam, Aberdeen area. And his grandparents were active members with all of the Elks, what was the other one? The VFW, and I believe even the Eagles down there. So in Aberdeen, they were known as Mr. and Mrs. Claus for probably, gosh, I'm going to guess maybe 35, 45 years. And when both of them had passed away, he looked at me and said, this is something that I really want to pass along to our sons, have them understand what it's like to give back to the community. What do you think about joining the Elks? And I said, sure, absolutely. That sounds great. So I held the spouse's card for about 3 years. And then one of our PERs, Darcy Kirshner, came up to me and said, hey, I need someone to hold an officer chair, and I think you would be perfect. And she knew that my youngest was just graduating high school, so I was going to have a little bit of free time. She says, what are you going to do with your extra time? And at that point, I hadn't known, and so she slid me right in. So my first position was lecturing night, and that's the first of the 4 officer chairs. And then she introduced me to Mr. Vincent, and Mr. Vincent at that time, I believe, was 89 years old and still did everything by hand, all of the donations. And so she says, he could really use some help in working on some spreadsheets, and how to use the Excel spreadsheet. And I said, yeah, I can do that, not a problem. So we hit the ground running and just moved through the chairs real fast. And next thing I know, here I am as Exalted Ruler and being able to talk to you about how great the lodges are and how amazing it is to be an Elks member.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love your enthusiasm. I love the show of support. One of the things is that how can you tell me from your lecturing night, and I love chatting with you because I've chatted with a lot of PERs and people who have been in the organization for 10, 20, 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to hear really your story because I'm so interested, because you've only been in the chairs for what, 3 years now? This will be your 4th year?
This is my 4th year. Yeah,
Yeah.
as a member. Yeah.
Fantastic. So everything is fresh.
Yeah.
Everything is new, right?
Yep.
So tell me, how have you evolved in the last 3 years from lecturing night? What was something that was kind of a pitfall that you didn't think you could do? And then now, 3 years later, you look back on it and go, oh, wow, that was nothing. I should have never been afraid of that.
I'll tell you that my biggest and most best part about being an ER is that I know 100% that I've got my PERs behind me. If I ever have a question and I am unsure of how to go about something, I know that I can reach out to my PERs because they've been there, they've done it, right? So they're our mentors. My lodge is great in kind of buddying up and saying, hey, I know that this is your first year, and so this is what I did as a lecturing night, or this is how it happened to, with me as a loyal night. So our group here is really more of a family. We call when we send out emails, or if you look on our websites, it's most of the time the posts are the family of the 479. I know that we're not all blood related, but we're a pretty close knit group.
Sometimes
And
it feels like family, doesn't it?
it sure does. Sometimes you spend more hours with your Elks family than you do your real family. But yeah, I just supported my members, supported my PERs, support of my trustees, support of my fellow board of directors. You can't. I mean, I can't talk enough about how great it is to not feel that I've been by myself this whole time.
So really, it's one big happy family.
Yes, of course.
You paused. You paused there for a second.
I mean, come on, right? So even families, see things a little bit differently.
See
But
things differently. Yeah.
yeah, we may not. I think that's the best part about a fraternal group like this. I love we have our PERs who things and world were different when they were here, right? I mean, let's be real. How many years has it been since the women were actually invited to be members? I think it's probably less than 25.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the 90s, I believe. Correct?
Right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing that I'm the 5th woman in a row that's held the position as an ER in this lodge. I think that in itself is historical, but the fact that we have our PERs, men that are saying, we're behind you 100%. We're going to teach you how it used to be, how life is different now, and let's make it the best that we can make it. And I think it's just a great learning experience for all of us.
Absolutely. And what have you looked at as far as the old guard, right?
Yeah.
What have you seen and what have you said to yourself? I understand that's the way you used to do it, but now that, times have changed, of course.
Yeah.
And how what's a good representation of how you want to further that and really kind of bring it more into the future? What's an idea or something that you've seen where maybe it's maybe that a certain process or something needs to change?
Yeah. I will tell you that I think this last year we've all learned a lot, and I cannot give more credit verbally to our newest, what we call our baby PER, Jocelyn Severs Bailey. She handled stuff in a way that it brings me to tears. Like, she made stuff happen, and she worked with the old guard in the sense of, they had their trials and tribulations, but never a pandemic. And so
I think it's pretty much tough to say there's nobody still alive that has ever had something a calamity such as what we've had last year.
right, and so she just set such a beautiful example of how to hit the ground running. And if in question, ask. um, we are a group that definitely does everything to ensure that we are dotting our I's and crossing our T's before we share anything with our members, to ensure that we're giving them strong, accurate information. We've got great support from our district deputy team, John Vega, Ben Braden, Nestor, all of those guys, right?
Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. I don't want to. I just want to stop you there for a second.
Okay.
I love that. I love the communication,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that a lot of lodges sometimes, and I've heard this before on other interviews. Sometimes what happens in the officers' meetings and the management of the lodge doesn't get transferred down to the members
Mm, mm,
as it should, right?
mm.
And
Yep.
especially in a pandemic, there's just been a lot of lodges that have just closed up, right?
Yeah.
I went to a lodge in here in California, and a lodge just closed up, and I think a lot of people were just saying, well, what's going on?
Mm,
Are we open? Are we not? The
yeah.
communication was spotty. How did you guys there really communicate with your membership and tell them, hey, we're still alive and things are happening?
Yeah. So good question. We utilize all of our social media pages. We have webmaster Jessica Mum, who's constantly making sure that our members had the most updated information that we possibly could. So we had Facebook, Instagram. We have our monthly newsletter. Again, Jocelyn just made sure that our members were aware anytime there was any kind of change. Our chairman of the trustees, whenever he had heard something from the governor that we thought we'd be in phase 3, but now we're going to be in phase 2, we would send out a blast and make sure that everybody knew, had signs on the doors of people, maybe aren't inclined to the internet, and they'd walk up to the front door and be like, unfortunately, we're closed for right now. But we also had a group that I believe at the time we had 700 and estimated 730 members. And we started at our 80 to 70-year-olds, and we split the group up, and we sat and we made our phone calls. We checked in with them. We made sure how they were doing. Is there anything that we can do? What's the best way to communicate with you? And are you comfortable with emails? Would you want us to continue these phone calls? And just make that interaction. And then we broke it down every 10 years and started breaking the group up again and making more phone calls so that they received an actual real person voice, right? Hey,
Wow.
how are you? What can we do for you? And most of them were like, we're fine, we're doing great. How's the lodge? And just have that interaction. We had a few, they're like, I'm struggling. And our lecturing night at the time, Jen Steele, is amazing about communicating with people and writing cards. And so she would say, hey, I talked to so-and-so and they're really struggling. So she would take her time and write a card out. Just know that we're here. We're thinking of you. Let us know what we can do to help. And I think just that initial interactions will let them know that we're here for them. And then keep in touch. Your newsletter is always going to have the most recent updates. And then if you are inclined to any of your websites, keep checking them out.
Brilliant. I mean, outstanding, right? I mean, there is, one of the things that I too had found was that it's all about communication. And when you can't open your doors, when you can't come in, when you can't sit face to face with somebody,
Yeah.
across a table or across the bar or across wherever you hang out at your lodge, um, misinformation gets out there. Stuff that never is really happening seems to happen, and then the innuendos start and everything else like that. So I think that was a brilliant move on your lodge
Hey.
to have that focused information, especially in a time of crisis. Yeah,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
mean, I've never been through a pandemic before. So, I mean, a couple of our old guards were like, I remember back in the day, you know what I mean? But those were the ones that we were most concerned about. Those were
Sure.
the ones that we had to make sure that we had contact with. Those were the ones that we wanted to make sure that we heard their voices.
Right.
Tell us what's going on. Do you need groceries? Do you need someone to go run errands for you? Do you need someone to go pick up your prescriptions? We'll drop it off at the door and then call you and let you know that it's there. It was pretty amazing to see how quickly our group just kind of swooped in and did the best that we knew how to do and kind of learn how to do it all at the same time together.
Well, it was new for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, no, and it's funny, it's very rare. Of course, there are hurricanes in the south or earthquakes in the west or snowstorms in the east,
Yeah.
but that's typically around a generalized area. This is the first time that it has been a calamity has been nationwide, and I think it's really interesting to chat with folks like you and see how did you do it in your area, or like they say, your neck of the woods, right?
Yeah.
And how did you do in your neck of the woods? And hopefully that inspiration and that discussion can be transferred when there is, and God bless us all, hopefully another COVID never comes, at least in our lifetime. But there will be another hurricane next year or another earthquake somewhere, right? And
Right.
I think this is wonderful information. So, next question I have is, and I want to kind of piggyback off of what you just said.
Okay.
In that communication that you were giving folks, did you guys ever have your lodge meetings on Zoom, or did you ever have lodge meetings over the phone, or did you just stop lodge meetings for a while? How did you guys do that during the COVID-19 crisis?
Yeah, so we actually did all of our trustee, board of directors, and lodge meetings via Zoom. Our PER, Jocelyn Severs Bailey, is an educator, so she is super well versed in the Zoom meetings, probably more than what she wanted to be. And so she was a great guide to make sure that we, shot the email out there or called people and said, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and have our meetings," and try not to skip a beat. And it was nice because I think once everyone had a chance to get a little bit more comfortable that the Zoom meetings were safe, because I know that was kind of a scare at the very beginning. Boy, I was super excited to see how active the members were coming in, and we would have, I don't know, 35, 45 people that would pop on as a Zoom meeting. And it was great to see their faces virtually because we hadn't seen them in so long. But again, we continued, like I said, with all of our trustee and our board meetings virtually. We didn't want to miss a beat business. We still had a responsibility to ensure that our membership and our lodge were being taken care of, right? And I know that the doors were closed and we may not have been able to be as active as we wanted to be, but we still had to take care of us financially. We still needed to make sure we were making right decisions. We still wanted to make sure that the information that we were receiving from the health department and from the local governor was being shared with our members accurately, because everyone was so anxious to get back and be able to have the event here at the lodge. And then also figure out what we could do while the doors were closed. So we had some drive-through dinners. We still wanted to make sure that our charities were getting some kind of donation throughout the year, right? Our activities committee was amazing. They had quite a few of our larger events go virtual, and they were super successful. So yeah, super proud of our group. Super, super proud of our group of trying to keep it as normal as we possibly could with the circumstances.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, everybody was in the same boat trying something, but it sounds like you guys really tried to think outside the box and really try and come up with some interesting ideas. We did the same thing. We had dinners on the patio because we couldn't open up indoors and that type of stuff. So absolutely, I think that's wonderful. So I guess I believe Jocelyn was your last ER, right?
Correct. Yep.
And you're brand new. This is your brand new year coming into it.
Yeah.
So you might even have a tougher time because you got to open them all back up again. I mean, you're now in the hot seat, as they say, right? So give me some of your ideas so that, as you know, I know I'm down here in California, but I know we're supposed to open, what is it, June 10th or June 15th or something else like that. And we're partially open. I mean, I think we're in orange tier, about ready to go into yellow tier or whatever they call them. So what are your ideas? What are your brainstorming? What's the creativity that's coming out of Wendy Cook that's really going to launch your lodge out of the pandemic?
Oh, gosh, that's a huge question. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the same thing that I shared with my officer corps. I may be the ER, but I cannot do this on my own. I absolutely can't. There would have been no way that I would have been able to accept this position if I thought that I was going to be able to do it all on my own. I have some of the best officer corps, charity corps, chair people, trustees, board of directors, activity communities, all of those things that collectively we are trying to figure out how we're going to hit the ball and make it be a home run, right? So
Right.
we're kind of in Snohomish County, we're kind of toggling right now. We are currently in phase 3, which means that we're at 50% capacity. And so we're not shut down, but we're only open a couple of days a week. We gotta wait and see. We're hoping, fingers crossed, that we'll be able to be 100% by July. And so we've just kind of been having our events not as not as full as we had anticipated, not as full as we had hoped, but also making sure that we're keeping everybody safe, right? So we had our Tall Elks dinner a couple weeks ago. It was beautiful to see everybody here. We've increased the use of Venmo. So for people that don't feel comfortable coming into the lodge, if they're not comfortable yet, we give them the option to, make their donations Venmo and still make sure that we post it on the newsletter and post it on the website, because everybody wants to be acknowledged, right?
So hold on. Let me stop you right there.
Okay.
Venmo, I think that's a wonderful thing. Now, I assume you guys just take Venmo at the door for the dinners when people walk in the door?
They could actually pre-order their tickets and go on Venmo. And then my amazing treasurer says, Wendy, you've got 15 people that bought tickets free in Venmo. And so we know how many meals that we need to cook in addition to those that have bought on site, right?
So you have, they can buy them online or off your website or whatever via Venmo.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep. They can do, we have walk-ins, we have to-go orders if we have an event. We want to make sure that people are able to participate in whatever capacity that they're most comfortable with. We are never going to turn them away and say, oh, well, because your butt wasn't in my seat, you can't have my dinner. I'm never going to do that. We will be gladly to put it in a to-go and meet you down at the door, and then you can take it home and enjoy it with your family. So nothing really super out of the ordinary, though. I think that my team is just keeping me active enough, considering we're not sure from day to day. And
well, no, I mean, because I keep hearing about, well, there might be a third wave. There's always these some days everything looks fantastic. Some days everything doesn't. There's always an up and down, and it's nothing you can plan for, and that has found is the most difficult, but luckily our numbers are going down. Our COVID vaccination shots are going up, so that's a good thing, and I think we're finally, I don't know if we're out of the woods, but I mean we're close enough that at least we can start planning for things weeks or months in advance without thinking, oh, we got to shut all back down again, because that was our biggest problem during Christmas. During Christmas time or the holiday time, when they shut us all back down again, and we were open for a month or two or whatever, and then boom, shut right back down again. And that's when I think the depression hit for a lot of folks, because it's one thing to get your hopes up and everything else, and then it just all kind of falls apart on you.
No, absolutely. I think that I 100% agree. Yep. I think that was probably the most difficult part, is that we're open, we're closed. We're open, we're closed. A lot of us got together and just said, you know what, we're just going to make it happen. And we had one of our biggest events at the end of the year. It was for Children's Hospital. It's our Christmas tree auction and dinner. And gosh, if I remember correctly, the week of the event, we got the announcement that we're shut down. And Jocelyn and her activities committee just went into overdrive, and the next thing we know, it is completely virtual, and they did an amazing job. Right. It was beautiful to see how well they just dove in and just made it happen.
Well, you know what, I think we've all learned something from this, which is that sometimes you got to spin on a dime, and even though today is what you thought was going to bring, and change will happen overnight, I think it became quite clear you have to think on your feet, and you can't schedule things out and pre-plan or whatever, and then come to find out next week everything has changed again. And then again, just like the tiering systems, we went back and forth on the tiering systems at least a couple of times right after the holidays. And you just have learned to be fluid, and you've learned to be fluid and work within the parameters that you're given almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, agreed. Thick-skinned, right? Thick-skinned. I thought we were going to be open that day. We did too. We're sorry.
I know.
We'll make it happen. But yeah.
No,
definitely.
that's yeah, but it sounds like you guys performed amazingly and admirably. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, so enough of the downtrodden speak of COVID-19. I um, I want to hear some great things about you and your lodge. When you were, I'm going to take you back just a couple of years when you were the lecturing knight or the loyal knight, and just first starting out. I would assume at the time somebody gave you a task to do, whether it's be on a committee or put on an event or something else like that.
Mhm.
The whole idea for membership to leadership
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
uh, what was, what scared you? I mean, what was one of the things that you kind of went, wow,
Mm,
I can do this, or are you the type of person that just jumps in with both feet, or are you the type
mm.
of person that really thinks about it and then kind of goes a step by step process?
I love a challenge. I'll be honest with you. I love a challenge. Um, I think that as a group, our task was definitely to build membership. I know that when I first became a member, I think that our average age was in the 80s, and that
Oh
was a great
wow,
concern, right? We were like, gosh, that's making our lodge be in a really critical place. I believe the report that we got nationwide last week is I think we're at 69.6 years now. So we brought in
that's a
some,
big jump.
right? Yeah, we brought in some new blood, some younger blood, and you can feel not the anticipation, but the excitement, and you just feel it. It just feels great when you're in here. We just had a great night. Friday night we came in, and at 50%, boy, we could hear laughter and everyone was having a great time. And it was a good feeling to have everybody here.
So
Um,
hold on. That's a great position. And I want to stop you for a second.
okay, okay.
How did you get those new members? And did you do a drive? Did you dress up in in an Elks costume and dance
Yeah.
on the street with a little arrow that says this way, that type of thing? I'm teasing, of course,
Yeah.
but the idea is that give me some of the ideas on what you did to increase that membership.
Yeah. So I have a lot of really high professional members, right? And they just network their butts off. Like, I'm going to be honest, I'm spoiled. So we've got a group that we called Engage Everett. And it's just I believe that it is a branch of the Snohomish County Alliance. I'll have to correct myself, I think. We'll think I might correct myself later in this conversation, but it's called Engage Everett. And what it is just pre-COVID, obviously pre-COVID, we would have kind of happy hours. They would come down to our lodge. We have a beautiful rental area downstairs where all of these people would come in and network, and you'd be able to talk to the serve pros and the local the guy that owns the bar up the street, or the coffee shop owner, or the dentist, or the chiropractor, whatever, and just
Okay,
talk.
so
Yep.
essentially you opened up your patio or your rental area, right? For business networking meetings.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
And we
Okay.
were actually invited. So they go around to all the different small businesses, and they asked, and they said, hey, do you have an area where we could have 40, 50, 60 people come in? Might have been bigger at the time pre-COVID. After COVID, my brain kind of just goes down to these lower numbers.
Unfortunately, everybody's brain is mush and
Right?
coming out of a fog at
Did
this
we
point, right?
really have 70 people in one room? Gosh, I don't remember. Yeah, and it was just a great way to just network, and they would be, oh, this is beautiful. I didn't even know you guys were here. And that was the thing that we heard the most. Um, what do you guys stand for? We would have our tribe boards out, and here's our core charities. This is how we're active with our vets. This is how we're active with our local Navy base and our longshoremen. This is how we're active with the local schools. This is how we're active with our final responders at the local cemeteries. And just letting them know that we're here was a great start. And then, of course, we
Absolutely.
have a beautiful lodge upstairs, which is where I'm sitting tonight. We have a gorgeous view. And so just inviting them to come upstairs and take a look at our social quarters and see where all of the fun happens. having events down at the marina where we can, we have music on the, what's it called? Music on the pier, I think. And again, go down there and just be active, right? Hey, we're from the Everett Elks. Oh, I didn't even know, guys, you know, you guys were there. Just letting the community know that we're here and what we stand for.
No, I think that's fantastic. So I love the idea of calling in a business networking group and opening up your rental area or a portion of your lodge at some point,
Mhm.
and inviting them down and having networking meetings at the lodge, because you're right there and you might as well just network within the networking group, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's a fantastic idea. That's a fantastic idea. So, okay, so you got in a brand new members and you got them in. Now, again, membership to leadership.
Yeah,
Uh, the goal is that how do you take those brand new members and how do you talk to them? How do you say, "Hey, listen, um, I think you'd be a great committee chair for events, or a charity chair, or somebody for PR, or maybe you'd like to even go into the chairs and come up into the management." How do you take them from just a guy who comes down for a network business meeting and
yeah.
decides to join, and how do you do that transition?
So I'll tell you, this is one of the things that I know that we can improve on. I'll just be upfront. Our intention is always to make sure that when they fill out what they're interested in on their application, this is what I want to do. I want to volunteer at the toy drive, or I want to volunteer at the hoop shoot, or I'm really comfortable maybe delivering welcome home kits down to the vets. We do the best we can to reach out to every single one of them and immediately engage. It is an area that I know we need to improve on. I know that we have volunteers out there, members out there that we have not touched base with them. And that's something that I want to have the opportunity to do this year, um, and make sure that we get more of our brand new members engaged.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Yep.
Gotcha. No, you know, I exist for that sole reason.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, we're doing the membership to leadership, because even the most successful lodges, and of course, Ben Braden and the Ballard Lodge up there, which are
Mm,
amazingly successful at driving membership, still has the problems of the conversion
yep.
from just a standard member over to, and that over to more of a management position. And that seems to be the standard across all lodges across the United States. And it was only until he came to me and said, "Steve, some lodges are packed full of members and they have to close because there's nobody to fill the chair positions or the officer positions or do anything."
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a shame. So,
It is a shame.
our goal here is to is absolutely to figure that out, and hopefully in some of these video interviews or whatever, you may find something that there's just maybe that small nugget of information where you go, "Oh, that's a good idea. You know what?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll work for my lodge." So, speaking of that, now that you're going to be ER, I would assume now you get to go visit other lodges and
Yeah.
start doing the visitations and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, how many lodges are in your district, and how do you feel about COVID? I mean, are you
Yeah.
comfortable going? How is your district or whatever thinking about how they're going to do their visitations and stuff like this?
Yeah. So we have lodges in different counties. And so we have to be really conscientious, is that the word? Of what phase that they're in when we're trying to plan something. So we have something here in District North. It's called apple picking. And every one of our lodges have a ceramic apple that has our lodge name and number on. And if you have an advertised event in either on your website or on your newsletter, and you bring 6 or more card-carrying members, so not spouses, but card-carrying members to that event, I can go up to the ER and say, "Hi, Everett's here." And the ER looks at me and says, "You want my apple, don't you?" And graciously, I'll take their apple.
Do you steal each other's apples up there?
We do. It is so much fun. We call it apple picking, and it is so much fun because one, it gets you to be able to visit your other lodges, right? You're
Right.
supporting them. We're all in different. We all have wants and needs differently than the next lodge based on, like, Ballard, right? Ballard has tons of members, beautiful property, and they have great volunteers. You've got Anacortes that doesn't have so many people, maybe not such a big lodge, but if we can go up and support, I don't know, let's say Oyster Night or something, we're going to get in our van and we're going to drive up and we're going to go support them. And then if they happen to own their apple because somebody else hasn't taken it, we'll just bring it down. But in turn, then that starts the competitive juices going, because then they're like, okay, I'm going online now. What has Everett got going on? And we're going to bring people down. And then they're supporting my bar or my event. And then
and of course, when they get there, they steal your apple.
No, they have to take their apple back. They cannot take my apple unless they are in possession of their own apple.
Oh, I see. Okay, no. Oh, I see the way this is going. So the idea is that if you get your apple picked, I guess if you get your apple picked, then you've got to go back down there. You got to bring 6 card-carrying members. You got to pick your apple back.
Grab my apple back.
And then on the next one down, let's say you have another event the following weekend or the following month or whatever else like that.
Yeah.
They get another 6 card-carrying members down. Then they come down and steal your apple.
Yeah.
I see. Has Everett's apple ever been stolen?
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, yes. Yes, and yes. But you know what that means? That means that I'm active. That means that my lodge has activities. That means that other lodges are wanting to see what Everett's doing, and I will graciously give my apple up. There's a little bit of a competitiveness between the Linwood Lodge and the Everett Lodge, and I think it's just because we're so close. They have Taco Tuesday night, and we love grabbing people, visiting them on Taco Tuesday night and coming home with their apple. And then they'll turn around on a Friday or Saturday and go, "Hey, we want our apple back."
I see.
Good. It's good.
So
ask Ben about his apple when he becomes DDGER.
Oh.
That's even more fun.
Is Ballard in your district too?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so they have an apple too.
Yeah, they sure do.
Have you ever taken Ballard's apple?
Oh, yes. I mean, not personally as ER.
Yet.
Yes, as a member.
Yet.
So Cindy Olsby, who is their newest ER, is also a friend. And so we were just down at our district meeting a couple weeks ago, and she was texting me, and she's like, "So, what events do you have coming up?"
Uh-oh.
And which is all fun and games. And then I noticed that she did a friend request on our Everett 479 Facebook page. Uh-oh. And I'm like, she's trying to plan a little apple picking. Just totally fine. I love it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It really is. I love the competitive camaraderie that goes on up there. And I think, again, that is a great way to essentially what you're doing is a forced mixer. You're doing a forced mixer between all the lodges or whatever. And I would assume nobody wants their apple picked, right? You know,
no.
So yeah. So
well, because if you have a district meeting and you are without your apple, there is a fine to retain your apple back. So if for some reason Everett didn't have their apple, and let's say our friends at Ballard did, and we go to the district meeting, they do an apple call, and they say, "Everett, do you have your apple?" Then my friend over at Ballard, Cindy, would say, "Nope, because Ballard has it." So then I would have to walk up and pay a fine to get my apple back. It did not occur. I am very proud to say that my first district meeting as an ER, I had my apple in possession, and there was not a fee that had to be paid. So
Now, was there any other lodges in your district that did not have their apple?
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of apple picking. And I'll be honest with you, Linwood picked up their apple the Friday before our district meeting. So our district meeting was on Sunday, and they all came Friday night to grab their apple back. So
I see.
it was a
And
close
they
call.
did bring at least 6 card-carrying members with them.
Oh, yes. Be sure that I am going to make sure that they are actively dues paid members, no spouses.
And did you actually sit there and count the cards and look at each membership card and verify each one?
I made them put them on the table, and I grabbed my little spectacles and I checked and said, yep, you're active, you're active, you're active. And then, okay, you guys can have your apple.
That's classic. I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's totally fun.
That's brilliant. I love that. Well, my next question was, do you have any good stories from visiting other lodges?
Yeah.
Well, that was brilliant. That was fantastic. I mean, I don't know how you can beat that.